They are not that much of experience in hiring from everywhere. One thing I would like to mention in that regard is, especially with Utiva, we Germans are very formal. So we love to see certificates. If you have a university degree, that's nice. If you have, we German have that apprenticeship programs, duale Ausbildung, how we call it, this also certificate. People coming in from a more informal background, like from coding schools, are quite new. And here again, Berlin is, I think, the biggest hub in Germany. Whatever 20 coding schools are there, and those German companies I mentioned before, this German Mittelstand, now try to understand what this kind of qualification is happening in those coding schools. What does that mean if somebody is doing 6 months of a training in a coding school and having like a certificate on that, compared to a bachelor degree or to compare to apprenticeship? So this is also within that thing that's applying for a job. Very often you are coming up to HR persons which are hesitating or being reluctant to people with not that very traditional German background of going through education. And perhaps nevertheless some numbers, number crunching. I just looked that up. There is an association for IT here in Germany, which is called Bitkom. And they just announced earlier this year that within the next 15 years, there is a lack of 3,000 IT professionals in Germany. So if you look on that number, that is super huge. Very often I'm not that happy with numbers, but if we are talking about 600,000 jobs, if there are 500,000, this is a big number. So it's very obvious that we have a huge demand. And on the other hand, what is I think always interesting for Africans is the average age in Germany is something like 46 years. So we are an old age society, and within the next 5 to 7 years, up to 25% of the total workforce in Germany is going to retire. So the gap is becoming bigger and bigger, and this is mainly true for all sectors, not only for the IT. But as I mentioned in the beginning, that when you look on visa processes, and there is still very much on paperwork, I think when you look on European Union, that Germany is one of the last in class when it comes to digitalization. So there is a lot of things still to do. So if you look on the overall numbers, if you look on demographics, and you look on the status of where digitalization is right now, then there are a lot of opportunities. But I think later in the discussion we can also see, because sometimes it looks easy, like there is a lot of talent and there is a lot of opportunity, why not easy match, and then that's straightforward. It's not very often. And then I think we have to pretty much look into details. What are those obstacles, and how is it easier to come over that? So perhaps this is a first overview on the German labor market.
Amazing, super amazing. Thank you so much. Very insightful information. Even though I've lived here in Germany for like a year now, I feel like I'm still learning a lot myself. And now we have an idea about the German labor market. I really want to use this medium to invite Eitayo. You could introduce yourself for us again. We would like to know you, and the numbers from Utiva is insane. Like, you've raised thousands of talent. Like, it's just crazy. I'm very interested to know your story. Tell us about the vision behind Utiva, and what do you think is the most demand tech talent that the world needs today? A lot of things is changing. Just as we have an overview about the German labor market, what kind of talent, what kind of skill set should people focus on? So Eita, you can go next.
Thank you, and thank you, Bokhand, for the very elaborate description of the German market. Victor, thank you. Lara, thank you. Yusuf, thank you. And Queen Claire, thank you so much, guys. The vision for us really is to just do this, to connect our talent to the international opportunities. The summary of our of our aspiration is to supply the global markets with the super energetic, intelligent, well-trained, talent from Africa. I did a bit of a research on the German market, but I feel that, justice has been made to that. I was reading just yesterday, and then I realized that, there is still over 137,000 tech jobs as at 2023, in Germany. And the interesting tech skills are the skills that we already train our talents in. There are skills like cloud computing, cybersecurity, of course, artificial intelligence, software development, and then other skills like the UI UX of this world, the product design. I fundamentally believe that, if you're a talent, you can find your space, in the global markets. Now, I want to give a bit of a background in terms of, how we at Utiva prepare, our talent for the challenge that they are going to experience. And, Bokan talked about certification and accreditation. Today Utiva is, an organization that is globally accredited by ACTD, American Council of Training and Development, in the United States. And every of our talent goes through the Utiva training, and at the end of the training, they've got to do three things. The first is work on several projects that some sort of like takes them from the theoretical side of learning to a much more practical part of the training program. Now, the second thing that our students then work on beyond the training that you do as a person is a much more collaborative, project, because it's okay. I mean, Bokan talked about the fact that the German market is a very formal, space. So there's a lot of expectation on the talent to have not just the skill, because the skill is important, but also have the capacity to work with people and communicate with people within the formal environment. And that's some sort of like what we have also, integrated into how we train our students to get them to not just learn the skill, but also be able to work with people, within a structured environment. So we do things like data hackathons, we do things like, product fests, design con, and all this nomenclatures are some sort of like bringing these students together, product designer, product manager together, and get them to work on a certain project with the supervision, of a mentor, of a coach who is very strict, by the way, because that's also what you're going to experience in the real, German market. So we kind of find a way to get that to be played out, while they are learning. The third thing I want to then emphasize is the community of continuous support that we give to our students. But just to quickly talk about the question that Kenny, asked, because today is not about me, it's about the other guests. There are 10 different technology skill training that we deliver at Utiva, 10 today. And we've got the vision to then build other new areas. So today we focus on things like on the coding side, data science, software engineering, cybersecurity, cloud computing, on the coding side of things. And then we are also introducing, I don't know if the platform is ready, but there's something called AI.utiva.co. I don't know if it's ready, which was supposed to be ready next week, where we are launching, our artificial intelligence bootcamp, but it's not on our B2C, it's going to be on our enterprise level. Now, on the non-coding side, we're focused on things like products and digital marketing, UI, UX design, technology sales. We also understand that sales is one skill that every company hires for. For some company, it's called account management. For some, it's called whatever, but here it's called technology sales. We have other skills like product and digital marketing, business analysis, product management, so think about Utiva. I'm going to leave this with you. Think about Utiva as a one-stop shop for everything technology skill training. Training is our strength. That's where we flourish. And then our vision is to then push all our talents, to the Terra talent of this world, so that you can then cherry pick and say, hey, where are the super intelligent ones among the cohorts that you've trained? Hopefully, they are all intelligent that you can hire, and you're helping us to globalize them. So for those that are listening, I will keep that. This is my last question because I'm not that smart. There are other people in the room that are going to answer all the other questions. I just want to be on the listening side. Guys, the session is recorded. You can watch the recording later, but I would rather you really pay attention now to learn from the likes of, Borkhand, Kenny, Yusuf, Victor, and Lara. Thank you. I'm done talking.
Well, amazing. That's so interesting about what you're doing and bringing in more in-demand skills for young people to empower them is super cool. And I would like to channel the next question to a very interesting guy from the German side. And I know we have a lot of talent here on this call. Like you said, it's not about us, but about the people, young people who are already on the trend of moving or transitioning their career or want to work abroad. So I would like yourself to introduce himself. And my question for yourself is, we have a lot of young people on this call who wants to maybe work or they have the dream to work for Germany. And you as a tech recruiter, I think it's interesting to maybe share some insights. How do you think they can position themselves for German employers or startups looking at the tech scene, and what do you think are some of the challenges do you think they might encounter and how you think they can overcome them? So you yourself, you can go next year.
Hi, thanks for the invitation. Happy to be here. So as you said, I'm a tech recruiter. I won't bore you with the introduction. Basically, one of the most important things in my career that will be very important for you to know is that I started my career as a recruitment consultant in an agency, which means that my job was to look for companies that were looking for talent and basically sell them recruitment services. So what I was doing is basically I had a certain region within Germany, which in my case was North Rhine-Westphalia. So this is where Düsseldorf, Cologne, and other cities are, Dortmund, etc. For those of you who like football. So I had that region, and basically what I was doing all day is look for all the companies that are looking for tech talent. I started my career in 2017, and I noticed firsthand the boom of the German tech and IT market, and I noticed how companies started going into, for example, big cloud migrations, going into buying a lot more or caring a lot more about cybersecurity and all these kinds of things. So I started my career. I'm a business person. I stumbled into tech, and I ended up really liking the field and getting very close to technology, but still having my specialization in recruitment. And what I learned really from working with the Mittelstand in Germany is what Burkhard said in the beginning. You have to understand that the German market at the end of the day is still conservative. Yes, we have many startups here. We have a lot of international companies that are coming here. They're very international. They're very English speaking. You will find people from all over the world. And this is where I am currently working. So I've been working with companies like this for the past 3 to 4 years. However, this is a small percentage of the whole German market. So especially if you're looking at, you guys will be recent graduates, you will not have a lot of experience, I would highly recommend going for these companies that are not so sexy in the market, so to say, but they really need talent. And what is really interesting is that these companies, because no one knows about them, and they're not very savvy in terms of, they don't know how to look for talent. And so they will give you that opportunity to get trained and really understand how things work in the German market. So now what Eyutayu said earlier, what you get with Utiva is that you learn all the skills, right? You learn the hard skills. I really like what you said about communication, understanding how to work with people, etc. Right? Now, once you got all those skills, the next step is to take some time, take some energy to really understand how do I look for this job? What kind of strategy should I take in order to find this job? And this is where Terra Talent comes into place, for example, where you can just speak with Burkhard and you get so much knowledge of how things work, and it might save you months of you trying things yourself, right? You speak with me, for example, I'll give you certain big tips. For example, you should learn German. Like this is for example one thing that will maximize your chances by the most. So if you're looking for the one thing that you can do to really secure your career in the long term, it is to learn German. This is what I've done, right? I came to this country in 2013. I came here with a little bit of knowledge with German, and I had to, when I finished my university, I had to really get to a level where I'm very comfortable selling in German. So I really had to get to the very highest level in order to get my first job. But once I got into it, now honestly, for the past 4 years, I haven't spoken German much in my professional career. But this is because I've been able to choose the companies I want to work for, and I prefer to work for international companies. So my message to you is really to understand, if you want to understand where you can find those opportunities, it is in those companies. And I'll give you some examples. I used to speak with companies that would pay a huge commission. When I say a huge commission, it's like, think about 10,000, 15,000 euros. And they would pay me because they're in small companies. They're in small cities in Germany. Nobody wants to move there. And they are ready to give people training for 6 months, right? And they're ready to accept very low level of German. And they just need someone, because once they get someone in, they can train them, and then they can sell them to their clients, because they have these big contracts with German companies. They need someone that at least speaks conversational German, and that's someone that is knowledgeable, can do the work, and is really disciplined, etc. So these are the kind of companies that will give you the first chance. And this is, at the end of the day, this is what you need. Once you have 1-2 years of experience, then it's a lot easier to find jobs in Germany. You will know the things in more detail, etc. So it will be easier. And I'm sorry if I'm going a little bit too far, but I'll finish up with this very important thing. So beyond what the German market looks like in terms of professional opportunities, think about what Germany can bring you from a personal perspective. And I'm going to be talking about my personal journey here. Like I said, I moved right after high school, and the amount of learning I had to make come experience in your career. So even if at some point you want to come back to Africa, you want to come back to your country, you want to go to another country, your dream is to go somewhere else, I think Germany is your best school. It's a very, very good country that has very good values for work. You really learn how to work in a good way, in a professional way. You learn how German people think, and this is something that you will not find if you're working in Nigeria. And this is I like, for me, this is the key thing about the German market that one shouldn't forget. Yes, you can make money, etc., but you can also get an experience that is unique, an international experience that will help you later on in your career, whatever you want to do. So just very, very briefly, I'm also a coach. I do kind of job search strategy, etc. And I'm very happy to help you guys if you have any questions around the job search strategy. I'm happy to answer them as well. I hope I'm not taking too long here.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Yosef. Very interesting. And yes, I think my next question would be from the Nigerian side. And for me, I've worked with a lot of international teams across different countries, and I feel like beyond the technical skills, he just talked about values. Germany have very strong work ethic, amazing work culture. The values are top notch. And I think it's unique, something very unique about Germans. They have very strong moral value when it comes to work culture. So I know, Big Madam Omalara, this question will be for you as a HR expert with working in international scenes. So we have a lot of young people here who will in the future maybe work in Germany or work for German clients. What do you think are some of these challenges you think talent face in terms of working in cross-cultural teams? This year we went to Kigali in Rwanda and we hear stories how we meet talent, but when you talk about talent, they have all the tech skills, but one of the kind of impression we had about Nigerians was their energy. When you tell a Nigerian student to introduce himself, the energy, even the soft skills, you could really feel it. But from the other side, it's not really common. So I just wanted to just share some of this because some of them will be coming to Germany. So as an HR expert, you can just tell us a bit about yourself and how you think they can work in a cross-cultural team, especially in terms of work culture. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. I think, thank you for the introduction. I don't think I should have to explain more, but your reference to the Rwandese market, I would talk slightly on that. And I think one of my experiences, when I was on Co-Creation Hub, we had the Kenyan, Rwandan, and Nigerian market, and it was very visible the difference in our energy. That's something we cannot take away from each other. But when you look at it, when you think Nigerians are energetic, and then you go to a market like, say, Germany, and was it Yusuf that said it, how conservative the German market is. And I remember during my short experience in the German market, I could see how, I think one of the hardest things for me then was I was coming from India, then I moved to Germany, and I was a Nigerian, and I could see all the different cultural differences, and which was basically at the start of my career. But as I've actually had to then grow in my career and all of those things as an HR professional, and I've seen how all these multiple markets, and I think one of the things that we also fail to see, even as HR practitioners, as recruiters, and also as candidates, we're always very not open to that cultural difference. And sometimes an HR professional, we really need to be more impactful, and having the privilege of working across all this culturally distinct region, which is, I've come to realize that fostering smooth cross-cultural integration is key to building a cohesive and productive workforce. So my approach as an HR professional is actually very multifaceted, addressing both the structural and interpersonal dimension of all this integration. So one of the things I do as an HR professional, especially when I'm managing cross-cultural organizations, is a generic onboarding process often fails to meet the specific need of this diverse workforce. So one of the things I've always focused on is designing and implementing onboarding programs that are tailored to the various unique cultural context of the region and the individual hire. So imagine if I have to hire someone from, say, Rwanda, and actually then having to, I think, again, it's also hard. If you're managing countries as regions, it's different. But when you're not managing these people as members of a cross-functional team where you have different cultures, it's always very hard. So when these onboarding programs are actually tailored to them, these programs go beyond just introducing what is the company mission, values, and procedures, or we just saying incorporating specific cultural insights. So for example, what I do is I like the difference in communication style, because I think that's when you have a cross cultural team, communication style is always the first big issue where, I would say something that will mean something entirely different to me, and then say to Rwandese or the German, it means something else entirely. And I'll use an example like if you go into markets like India, where they will be like, you're allowed to call your bosses by their first names and all of that. And then you go into German markets where Germany is big on respect. You address me as a Mr., as a Mrs., as a Miss. You don't use my first name, no matter the hierarchy. But then it was so interesting, especially when you work in international organizations. And then I was with Deutsche Post DHL, and my team lead could allow me to call her by her first name. But then there are certain offices that I will go to. Before you even get there, they're telling you, do not address this person by their first name, because that's you crossing the line. So even though back then, even still now, Deutsche Post DHL is corporate, it's multinational, especially when you work in a multinational organization, you have to identify that individuals would tell you how they want to be addressed. So because you work in a multinational company and your boss is first name, the next person will tell you straight up, I do not want you addressing me by my first name. So you as the candidate, and even as the candidate and the new hire, you need to be aware of all of these things. You can't just say, because one thing I always tell people is there's always the company culture, and then there's this team culture, and then there's the individual culture. You need to know when to draw the line, and you need to know where the boundaries are. Do not say, because my boss has said, oh, we all do first name basis here, then I must address you by your name. No, I as an individual have the right to tell you how I want to be addressed. So that's one of the things people always need to know. And that's one of the nuances when we're designing our onboarding programs, we're letting employees know that, to say that this is what it is. So by so doing, new employees are always better equipped to navigate all our organizational structures and the cross-functional cultural interaction within it. One thing I've always also focused on is cross-cultural training. So developing cultural awareness is very vital. I believe it's very vital to fostering effective collaboration across global teams. So back then, I would organize sessions, workshops that focus on cultural sensitivity, because one of the things is, especially as a Nigerian in Africa, your experience is different. We have that energy. We like to say, oh, what this, what that. You go into African countries, we always try to feel that superiority. But then it's for most people that are not on the loud side, like we Nigerians are, they see us and they're like, what's wrong with this person? What's this energy? Like, you see yourself as being energetic, but for them, it's just like, why are you all over the place? So you need to always understand yourself, what's the cultural sensitivity, team dynamics, and communication style, like I've mentioned earlier, to preempt potential cultural friction, because there'll always be cultural friction. This session always provides employees with the tools that they need to respect and appreciate other colleagues' cultural background, because I think no matter how you do it, the backbone of it is you understanding and respecting people's cultural background. The way we cook in Nigeria is different from the way the Germans will cook or the other African countries. So you need to actually understand those backgrounds. And the goal is not to avoid misunderstanding, but to create an environment where diversity is seen as a strength that enhances creativity and innovation. Our cultural thinkings, our way of thinking, people with all these cross-cultural trainings, people are always able to then better understand the next person, the next culture. Because one of the things I realized is that no matter how international we think we are, that cultural awareness and respect for other people's culture is usually a big deal for us. And some of us are not able to understand that boundaries or carry that respect around with us. Again, one of the things I've always done is inclusive leadership and diverse teams. So the leadership is very critical, especially when you're managing a cross-cultural team. I believe the leadership is very critical in setting the tone for how well cross-cultural integration succeed. So one thing I also focus on is also the leadership team. I always make sure the leadership team reflects the diversity of the workforce, bringing together varied perspectives and experiences. So this not only helps us promote inclusivity, but also sends a clear message, because one of the things for us is that it's the leadership that carries the culture of the organization, no matter how we want to put it. Because if we say no to something as a leader, if you say no, your subordinate or team members are able to understand the no, as against when, oh, my team lead is doing this, then the next team lead is doing something else. So there has to be a cohesion between the leadership. So this helps us promote. So one of the things I provide leadership teams with, again, there's cross-cultural training team, then also particular attention to making sure that the leadership team also understand what it means to be culturally competent. and ensuring that they are able to guide their teams through all of these cross-cultural challenges that will happen. Because like I said, cultures happen from the organizational level to the team level. So if you as a team leader, if your team members see you as, because I think I've worked in an organization where once we had a team leader who was, I wouldn't mention the countries, but they were different countries right now. And it had to do with accent. And then this leader, when the team members started talking, they were like, the team leader would then come and say, oh, you people don't pronounce this word very well. She would redraft their emails and all of those things. But at the end of the day, it was just pronunciation. It was how we all pronounce our words differently. The way the German will pronounce a single word is different. It's a different way from how you would pronounce it as a Nigerian. And then even the English will look at you sometimes and tell you, oh, your accent is different. And I think one of the hardest things for me when moving to England was then you come to England and you realize that, there's so many accent here in the UK, and you're wondering, okay, I'm in Liverpool, I'm hearing something else. I live in Scotland now, and sometimes when they speak, I'm wondering, okay, am I still in the UK? But then you have to realize that yes, the Scottish also speak English, but it's a different kind of English and all of those things. So those are those things that we look at. And one of the biggest things for me is mentorship. Especially mentorship is very key, especially when you're trying to integrate new hires. So helping new hires from different cultural backgrounds to acclimatize into a new business. One of the things I've always done is I'm always a big fan of mentorship, and especially bodies, the body system, because I believe that when you join a new organization, the people that will help your career are people that will guide your career, are people that already know the system and have been in the system. So that's where the body system is. So where you have a body that will help you offer both professional guidance and also informal advice. And I think the biggest part of the body system is actually that informal advice that is offered to new hires. You do something, like I would say, like someone that will tell you, oh, before you don't go to Kenny's office and go and call Kenny by name, or try and be overly, what's that word now? Be too into Kenny's face. That person is going to tell you, oh, this is how Kenny is. This is what Kenny likes. This is what Kenny doesn't like. It's not like a privilege, but that's someone guiding you. It helps you avoid blunders, because we all make blunders as new hires. So having a body, that person is there to save your life in quotes, because that person is going to tell you, oh, this is how a tire works. This is how a tire does these things. This is how your manager does it. I even prefer when the bodies are not within your team. Someone who's just looking from outside your team that can actually help you navigate the own organization. So that's one of the things I'm always big on. And I believe that this help new hires actually integrate and foster an immediate sense of belonging and provide a safe space for them to ask questions, seek guidance, and also build relationship. And then lastly, for me, I think when cross-cultural organizations, it has to be very big on continuous feedbacks and adjustments, because it has to be an ongoing process. It's not a one-off initiative. It's not where you say, oh, once a year, you're just going to do, what's it called? We're going to have these employee surveys. One of the things I've done across organizations that I work with is regular check-ins and feedback. So I'm always asking people, we have the 30 days new hire, we have the 60 days, we have the 6 months, we have all of those things, because that's how we know if our onboarding process is going as it should. And then people are able to openly discuss any challenges that they may be facing. And this feedback always helps us to adjust our policies and our practices and how our onboarding processes is. So I believe that these are the strategies that I believe I've been able to use to create an environment where diversity is not just accepted, but actively celebrated, and where every employee, regardless of their cultural background, can thrive and contribute meaningfully to the organization's success. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Omolara, for sharing. That was very cool. I really like when you talked a lot about leadership. I mean, I don't know. I used to volunteer with ISEC, and I think we believe leadership is a fundamental solution. I spent 5 years with ISEC, and I think it also plays a role personally for me in terms of cross-cultural understanding. Working in a work environment like Tanzania was very different. Coming to Germany was very different. So I really like when you emphasize on leadership. And I think that experience being in a cross-cultural environment really helped my career till today. So I really, really appreciate the sharing. And my next question will be to Victor. And Victor, as a talent manager, you're very experienced as well. The German work and German market is attractive, but at the same time, it's a bit complicated or a bit tough. And we have many of them who wants to come and work in Germany or work remotely for German companies or startups. What do you think are those strategies that can help in terms of attracting and retaining tech talent, especially for the German context now? And you could also tell us a bit about yourself at the same time so we can also know a bit more about you. Victor, are you there?
All right. Yes. Can you confirm you can hear me? All right. Awesome. Thank you so much. I mean, it's been an insightful session so far, and the energy has been high. I've enjoyed every bit of the session, and I've enjoyed listening to every of the speaker as well. So when it comes to attracting tech talents, I think I'll put it locally and in Germany, in the German markets. It's a two-way thing, and I'm going to just try to split the coin. I don't know how many employers I have here, and I know I have a lot of talents here that are also looking to gain employment. So I'll concentrate this more about what companies should always put in front of them to attract this kind of people. Peradventure, there's any employer from Germany here or any consultant. And at the same time, I'll flip the coin to what tech talent should be looking for. In terms of the kind of companies you would want to choose to work in. There are a lot of companies. I've worked with startups the last 3-4 years, tech startups to be more precise, right? And I've been able to onboard tech talent globally and locally, and I know what that market looks like. From my point of view and perspective, and it's a very unique kind of industry. Tech talents are very unique people. I always want to say that. So one thing I'd always say is, from research, it shows that 47% of tech talents are always looking for challenging works, right? So for any organization that is looking to attract tech talent, um, a very good employer value proposition is very critical, especially for tech talents. You don't just want to bring on people because of the compensation. You also want to sell how challenging the work will be. So when we talk about attracting means you are trying to get the best of the best, not just people that will come or most likely come and be on and not be performing. So attraction in this context for me is about getting the best of the best. And of course, the best people will want to jump on roles that will challenge them, right? So 47% of tech talent are always looking for, from research, for tech roles that will challenge them. And that's always a catch. That is what most people will be looking out for. And peradventure you're on the call today and you're still shying away from challenging roles, then it almost means you're sidelining yourself from being one of the top and the top performers, right? So let me just flip the coin over a bit. If you're going to grow in your tech career, if you're going to grow as a professional, at some point you need a stretch. You need that challenge, because in the place of that challenge, you are going to get more better. You would have more opportunity to work on challenging projects, and you can even sell that as a value to your next employer. You can sell that as a value to the next opportunity that would come, because if you're going to get any opportunity, generally people want to know what you've done. People want to know the kind of project you've worked on, how the project has impacted the market. Stuff like that. So that's one thing that I think employers should look out for, letting people know how challenging the work will be, right? And another chunk of talent would also be very, 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 very interested in how significant, their role is to the market generally, and the impact, right? The impact the products they're building, the impact the company they're working with is to the organization generally. I remember I worked with an African tech startup, and one of the things we were doing, and when Luanda, Dubai, and in Lagos here, one of the things we're doing is to improve um, the operations of quick commerce generally. ensuring that the challenges that people face in getting their deliveries very late is fast tracked, and ensuring that people get deliveries in less than 15, 30 to 45 minutes max. So when I want to poach talent, that is one of the first things I'm selling to them, that you're coming on board not just to work with the organization, but you're coming to solve a problem of quick commerce generally in Luanda, in Dubai, and in Nigeria. Whereby when you come work with us, you build our product, and peradventure the product is at the stage of adoption. You are helping solve, you are helping to solve rather the what quick commerce should look like, ensuring that people are getting their deliveries right. So some of these things are very critical in building a very solid value proposition from an employer standpoint, and also very critical, which you can miss out. Remember, I've not talked about compensation, but one other thing I think people or employers should put in their value proposition is the vision of the organization, the long term vision, which is long, but most importantly, the short term visions, which I would always call the quick wins. What the organization is trying to achieve in a very short while. I mean, you might be so lucky that your vision is aligning with the person you're speaking with, or the short-term vision is even raising some kind of enthusiasm in the kind of people that you're trying to attract. So that is this. These are just some of the things that could be embedded in a value proposition to attract very quality people. And like I said initially, attraction in this context is getting the best of the best. The people are the strongest assets in every organization, and you want to ensure that you're not carrying a dead weight. You're going and you're building a very solid team. Now, for the tech talent that are on the call, I mean, you might be wondering, I've said all of these things, and I've not even mentioned compensation. If I'm to flip the coin, right? I think when you're looking out for some companies to work with, you should also be very particular about the impact of your role, right? And the impact the organization you're tilting to work with is having generally, I mean, in the world at large. You'll be so surprised that joining some types of organization will help you make some significant impact in your career. Why? Because you're joining an organization that has found a need and is trying to solve a very big problem. Problem can vary, right? But if you join an organization that is solving a very big problem and even interests you, it could be a very good thing for you as a professional. And like I mentioned again, don't just look for, especially if you're started. I don't know. There are different calibers of people here. Don't just look for the role that will make you underutilized, right? Look for roles, take on projects that are really going to stretch you and challenge you and ensure that it makes you better. Because after all, the currency to earn more in the tech market is your value, right? It is not just your experience. So the impact of the work you're putting out is also commensurate to the value that you have as a tech professional. And the value that you have is also what you can sell to your next employers. And that value can now translate into currency, into the money that you're looking. So first things first, before you jump into the monies, have the value, get the work done, challenge yourself, and when you've done the right thing, you've done the needful from your end, and you've built very good product, you've helped product scale into the point of adoption, people have used it, you've solved a lot of challenge. I mean, these are very key things you could sell, and you're good to go. Over time, the more valuable you become, the more you can earn as a tech professional. It's not far-fetched. And note, not in all cases is this by experience, right? The tech world is a very unique landscape whereby the value of the projects you've done might not necessarily be determined by the level of your experience, right? So that's just one thing. I think I've been able to balance it. What employers should do in their value proposition in attracting the right set of people, and what the tech talent should also be looking out for in the kinds of organizations you're looking at. And when it comes to retention generally, I would like to say that retention is only, I mean, every organization should be looking to retain their best talent, right? However, you're looking to help the people that are peradventure not performing to ensure that they are at a point where their output is very, very optimal. So when it comes to retention generally, I think the previous speaker spoke more about that, about culture, about feedback. about leadership. But one thing that is very, very critical is research has shown that people actually look out for more opportunities because of career growth, right? People want to grow because they know their growth is also commensurate to compensation. So if you have an organization or you're consulting or you happen to be a leader in an organization, growth trajectory, visibility of people's growth trajectory is very, very critical. People know that I'm not just working in silos, but once I'm achieving this milestone, there is a next step, there's a next level for me. This can drive some level of retention. Compensation falls into place. Meaningful work, I think I've touched based on that, and maybe just recognition generally. So this I would just say, and I think I've been able to balance it, especially as it relates to attraction, what people should put in front of organizations in order to attract top talent, and what the talent itself or themselves should also look out for in the kind of organizations or the kind of projects they will be joining. So I think that's it from my end. I've been able to make that very brief. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Victor. I like the way you try to strike the balance from the talent side and also from the side of the employer. I'm sure a lot of you are already getting a lot of value. So I want to move to our last speaker. This is a more different approach. She'll be sharing her own story, how she was able to move to Berlin in Germany, maybe to also share some good case practices, what worked well for her. And I think a lot of you can learn from her story. So I will invite Esther to go next.
Yeah. Okay, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? Okay, great. Yeah, so thank you, Kenny, for the introduction. So my name is Esther. I moved to Germany around 6 years ago. I moved as to work for a company here. That was back in 2018. Doesn't feel that long. And I was a digital marketer, before I came into Germany. And then when I came into Germany, I transitioned into IT. And so I've worked for 3 companies. So I started out at a company that was more of a startup, or a company that's leaving startup to become a company. It was very, very small, family-sized. And then later, for another year, I moved into a very mid-sized German company. And when I say mid-sized, I say around maybe 300 or 400 people, although they still had operations outside Germany. And then currently, I am with a German bank, where I have been for the longest, for almost 5 years. And I work as a product manager within the investment banking space. So I'll say that maybe one of the biggest challenges that I faced when I came to Germany, maybe for those of you that you'll eventually move to this country, I think is just the culture shock. So the German working culture is very, very different. I'm from Kenya. I came from a Kenyan working environment. And then now I moved into the German working space, which is very, very different. And it wasn't, I remember the first year, it wasn't easy at all. And some of the challenges that I encountered, number one is I think Germans are very, very direct people. They don't bite their tongues. They don't beat around the bush. So there's that culture of giving very straight, direct feedback. And to me, that was a culture shock because I come from a culture where people maybe try to sort of soften, even if something is bad. I'm not going to tell you directly that it's bad or the quality of your work is poor. It's sort of masked in some diplomacy. So I had to quickly learn that maybe the person on the other side of the table is not maybe being mean or I can even say this trying to be racist, but it's just a cultural, thing, which I have to adapt to. And I think that I've also had to learn how to give direct feedback because that is sort of the expectation around here. So that was one. And then number two, it was just working with people from different cultures. I think Lara, Omolara touched about that briefly when she was talking. Like, for example, if you have a manager based in the US versus a German, versus an African. So sometimes that can create lots of tension, because people have just different communication styles. In our culture, sometimes we come with a lot of energy, and maybe some people speak their minds, others don't. And it may cause like a lot of tension. So I think you have to sort of like just use some emotional intelligence, when it comes to navigating a multicultural working environment. And the other thing I'd want to say is learn the language as soon as possible. That is something that I didn't do, because number one, I came straight to work for a German company. Sorry, I came to work for an English speaking company where basically 80 or 85% of the company was English speakers. We were all international. So we spoke, and then outside work, maybe you hang out with your fellow expatriates or people from your country. So you don't get like a lot of opportunities to actually practice the language. It's very, very tough. Yeah, so that is one mistake that I sort of did. Like I just remained comfortable and maybe thought that since this is Berlin, I can just get by with English. But long term, you'll notice that that may actually affect you professionally. You may reach somewhere and sort of not be able, you sort of like hit a professional ceiling, because we have like a lot of German companies that are global and they have great opportunities, but they still, even if the working language is English, they still require you to have some certain proficiency in German, even if it's A2 or B1. So I'll say that if you want to work in Germany in future, it will be nice if you just learn the language, just have that initiative. It's not an easy language, but just be motivated to learn the language. And then the other thing that I'll tell you is be very aware about the German labor rights. This company has very, very strong employee rights. And what I've seen, because these things have happened to several of my friends, and it almost happened to me, is that some companies, especially where they hire a lot of foreigners, they may sometimes try to take an advantage, which may be maybe after probation, try to get rid of you due to certain reasons. But Germany has very, very strong working rights. And if you're past probation, then your company cannot just fire you. You have to negotiate a package, or you may have to negotiate another position within the company. So sometimes people are just given paperwork and they end up signing that paperwork without reading the fine print, and they find themselves shortchanged within the process. So I'd say that be very familiar, consult work lawyers if you have to. And just be very, very, very aware. And then the last thing that I'll talk about is sort of just, again, more on the cultural side, navigating a place where you have like people from different cultures. I'll just say have awareness around DEI, which is diversity and inclusion. A lot of that came up in 2020 when we had the whole Black Lives Matter. Some of it is it's kind of been dying, but so I think like in my company, I started together with other Black people within the bank. We started a DEI initiative where basically we go around different teams and we just speak on topics regarding microaggressions, unconscious bias, because we are international and we've worked with people from maybe all over the world, but that's not the case because, again, I work in a German company. Some people have been born, raised like in Germany. They really don't have that exposure. So I think just having programs like this is good for sort of like just leveling the ground and just, they've been very, very receptive, especially if you get people at the top management level of these companies to just sort of like get on board, and sort of like try to ease in, some of the cultural tensions that may come up in the workplace. I've seen what a difference that has made. And yeah, that's all I'll say for now. Thank you.
Kenny, are you on the call?
Absolutely, I'm on the call. Thank you so much, Esther. I didn't even know you're originally from Kenya, and we really liked what you mentioned, that in as much we have a lot of English jobs, to be honest, we have international jobs in terms of international companies, but I do feel like if you want to work with Germans, having the language plays a very key role. I'm not even proud of myself because I'm not there yet, but hopefully in the coming months, I'm making intentional effort to improve my German. I also heard from Josef's story how he also made a lot of efforts. I think it really helps a lot. And Esther, your story is really inspiring. I think when I grow up, I want to be like you. So we are behind timing. So I will want to ask the last question to Bookart, and then I will take only 2 questions for Q&A, unfortunately, because we are behind time. And I feel like we've talked a lot about skills, culture, and all of that. It would be nice if, Bukhart, you can help us with some of the key trends that is shaping the German labor market for IT professionals. And maybe it could be very nice to be more specific. When you say IT, what are those biggest demand? Is it full stack? Is it AI experts? Is it data engineers? I know you have a lot of experience, especially with the whole workforce. So this kind of information can help these young people position themselves in terms of the tech or IT market in Germany. So if you can maybe summarize in 5 minutes, then we can do 5 minutes for Q&A, and I don't want to take too much of your time since it's a Saturday. Thank you. Bukat, you can go.
Thank you very much. Perhaps, Yusuf, you also have to help me on that because I'm not the super IT professional from my background. But what I can say is, when you look on the startup scene, there is a lot of